Okay, now we have learned lot many things so far, right? We have learned absolutely many things. Now we have reached at that point where we should start with what you can say routers, right? Let me open that routers, and this folder I need to open, right? So I have opened the project in the VS Code, right? I'm going to create a separate repository for this, for your batch, right? And we would be starting with the routers, right? We would be starting with the routers. So far we have seen this line over here. If you can see this base href, this line is something for you. Routers is related to the links. If you say your 4200 /students, if you want to load all the students, then that come under the routers. If you want to load your app localhost :4200 student / whose roll number is 12, and if you want to load that student information whose roll number is 12, that comes under the router. Make sure that routers are absolutely optional, right? Huge topic, right? The Angular router enables navigation from one view to the next as a users perform the application task. See, this guide covers the router's primary features, right, that we are going to see over here. Make sure that one thing, without router also you can make your full Angular application. That is an optional thing. Router is an optional thing. You can make your full project with the router or without the router, but going with the router which make you something simple. Many things simplify the router. So very first thing we are going to see this base href that they have mentioned over here. Most routing application should add the base element to the index.html as the first child in the head tag to tell the router how components compose the navigation URLs. How components compose the navigation URL, right? If the app folder is the application root, right? If the app folder is the application root, as it is for the sample application, set href value exactly shown over here, right? You need to do this thing, right? And I told you we'll see what do you mean by this thing at the time of routers. So this will help you in the routing. So your localhost 4200, right, / is nothing but this slash. Yes, parent directory. From here your application will start running, right? Okay, so we have component, right? Let me have a quick Bootstrap setup, right? Go to the getbootstrap.com, right, and download the Bootstrap. You can have this CDN link over here and copy that CDN link over here, right, which will incorporate Bootstrap in your application. So this is your root. You can have .container, here you can say .row, then you can say .colmd and the 12, right, and here any of your component that you want to load, right? Any component that you want to load over here, right? Now what I'm going to do is that, so this is your component ts, right? This is your TypeScript file, this is your app module, all this is same. We didn't do anything, but I am going to add one file, extra file over here, which is nothing but app.routing.ts. Routing configuration is written over here. So if you go to the router, can you see this thing? You are going to write the routes in this fashion. You are going to write the routes in this fashion. Right. Now I'm going to say here constant. I would be having one constant, and app underscore routes is equals to one array. This is nothing but one array. App routes is nothing but one array of the components, array of the objects. So first parameter is a path, right? After your that base, what is the path you are doing over here, and the component, what would be the component that need to be loaded over here. If path, or if there is nothing after path, means empty, you need to load this component. And let me create very first component for this project, which is nothing but welcome component, right? Which is nothing but what? Welcome component. So here I can say nggc, right? And I can say first component, just first. It will automatically create the component on its own. So I have written the first, and in the app routing, here you can say first. First, component component is the key, and you are loading first component. Right, you are loading the first component. Is that the name? First component, it's the same. Right, okay, let's import it manually. Import, right, something is issue. First component from, you can say dot first and your first component dot ts. Okay, you have manually imported the first component over here. App route, you are going to make this configuration file in this manner, right? You are going to create the configuration file in this manner, where you would be having one constant array of the path to the component mapping. So path means after the base, if URL is this, load this first component, you are saying, right? So this is not enough, you need to import this, right? So there is something called as router module, right? And into that router module you need to load this thing. So here I can say one more export, right? Export, say route module, right? Export the router module of type what? So that would be of type, or say router module is equals to router module dot for route, and you are going to pass, right? You are going to import the router module from the Angular's router package. Here you can say router module from, and here you can say router at angular forward slash router, right? And for root you are going to pass this app roots over here, app roots. So here you said I have my router module, this application is having own router module, right? And I have presently only one path, right? I presently have only one path, which is nothing but the empty. And if path is empty after the base, kindly load first component over there, and this is my module that I have created. So my router module need to be imported into these modules. Can you see here? There are some modules, and here you can say my router module. Likewise, the browser module, forms module, HTTP module, you created your own module, and that module you are importing over here, right? And that module you are importing over here like this. Or instead of let, you can say const. Once again, it should be constant, and you have exported that constant to that like this. Router module is a built-in module in the Angular core package, right? And here you are saying please start from these routes. That is nothing but the for root. For root is a function that says that please start from these routes, please consider these routes, right? Please consider these routes, and you are returning that module over here. But this application will not work. If you try to run this app will not work at all. So why this app will not work, we'll discuss. Let me close these things first, right? And let me enter into the app. See, npm start. So let me start this application, right? This application will not work because you just have said if there is a empty after the base. So I'm not saying again and again after the base. If there is a empty URL, you can consider after the base, right? If there is an empty URL, I'm going to load this first component, but where you are going to load, that is not described. So I'm going to load over here, and then you can say router outlet. In the router outlet, I'm going to load all that components. So here that component will come and automatically gets injected, right? Now if you say, can you see first works over here? So first component has been loaded into this router outlet. Your first component has been loaded into the router, this thing. Now let's have second component. Let me open it in the terminal, right? Not the first. So I can have ng-gc second, right? I would be creating the second component. And now in the app routing file, right, in the app routing file, I want to load the second component. What you can say, if someone has doing /second, and this is a wrong. If you attach the slash, this is a wrong. That is already defined in the right base. After the base is nothing but the slash. So here you are saying if someone has written that thing, so you can load the second component in that case. If URL comes, you can load the second component. See now, /second. See, second component is getting loaded into that router outlet thing over here. So they are trying to mimic server side functionality into the client side functionality. This feature is obviously on the server side scripting languages like the PHP, like the JSP and the ASP, but this is an emulation of that thing on the client side. Yes, particular particular component. Then that is a call of the particular component. See, this calling that. See, if the first component, let me have a little bit, what you can say, your bootstrap thing over here, right? So you are saying this thing, and you have one input, right? Type is equals to button, right? We have input type is equals to, sorry, input type is equals to button, and on the click of the button, right, on the click of the button you can say dt is equals to not dt, right? And let me print that dt over here. This you are saying, right? How this will happen, that's not an issue. That is about to the first component, right? See, true or false, that's happening. If I make second, altogether new life cycle for the second component has been loaded. So your earlier component is going to be removed from the DOM, ng-destroy has been called, and new component has been placed in the router outlet over here. New component has been placed in the router outlet over here. So that's not an issue. Absolutely, that's not an issue, right? So here we can have one more row, and into that row let me write say h1 and routers, right? And then horizontal rule. So this will look like this now. Second works. If you have nothing, means first component has been loaded over here. Just for styling purpose, let me change it. Class is equals to btn and btn primary, right? And value yes, get employee. Okay, so in the particular component, right? So see here, this is nothing but the inline function call in the context of which component? First component. So that is in the context of the first component. In the second component you cannot call this at all. You cannot call this at all, this change. So if you load the second component over here, everything has been replaced for first component, and second component has been loaded over here. See, on the click of the change component, what you are going to do? Yeah, we are going to see that how to do that thing, how to map the links, right? What is how to work with the navigation, that we'll see. But make sure that intention of this video is the configuration file like this. This configuration we created, and few things I shown you how to work with the routings. This line, this, see, you are reaching to your component. Dot is nothing but the current directory is the root. In the dot you will find second is one folder, and in the second folder you will find second component.ts. Current directory. No, dot is a current directory. Dot is a current directory, right? So that's all about configuring the routes, right? I'll continue in the next, what you can say, video.